But I do say that space can be...
It's happening. Hello, everybody. Welcome to hellagregLIVE, part of the Super Network still. And you can find me at hellagregLIVE everywhere, including Twitch, YouTube, and hellagregLIVE on Facebook. Let me know where you're watching from, too, so, I know where to direct my attention. I'm Greg. I have Jesse with me. Say hi, Jesse.
Yo, hoy.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg,
Yes.
can I get a little bit of headphone boost?
Headphone boost. So my
Nothing needs
headphones
to be
up.
turned up. If I could just hear us louder, that'd be wonderful.
Whoops.
Little monitor in it.
What if I did that?
What if I talk like this?
How's that?
Yeah, that's a little bit. It's just a little tougher. I don't think you need to go up on anything. Just headphones.
Yeah, I turned them up. No? Need more?
Yeah.
Mas.
Is it? I feel like maybe I'm not getting them that there. Oh, there it went. Yep. I wasn't even getting it before.
Okay.
I'm still not. There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear.
Still nothing?
I think we're just having a rough connection time. Here, just give me the Lolas real quick, and you start, and I'll get them plugged in. Switch over to your face, though.
Oh, okay. I don't have a good shoulder there, so yeah, we'll do this. Here, put it on the right screen. So that's Jesse. I'm Greg. Paul, I can see he's out there. So this is good. We're all here. Everybody's having a good time. Today, I'm going to talk a bit about the moon landing. Jesse's going to talk a bit about the moon landing. Hopefully, you'll have something to say about the moon landing as well. Basically, I'm not going to say one way or another that this is or is not 100% the fact. I'm just going to present you with some information that I've found, and hopefully you'll be like, yeah, this works, or no, this isn't good, or what about this? And we can just, have a nice civil conversation about the moon landing.
No, I don't think so. I take everything Hella Greg says as fact and science. I don't even look it up. You just have to run with that, because when you're in the cult, it's just what you do.
That's right.
You just follow Hella Greg just to the end of the earth, because it's flat. Ask him.
Do not lump me in with those monsters. Do not lump me in with those monsters.
I'm just kidding, man.
Aaron says the moon's made of cheese. Paul asks, what is the moon? Everybody knows it's that space station that's hollow, that's floating just above Earth.
Let me ask you a question, Greg.
Yeah, please.
If the moon were made of cheese...
This makes no sense without the head movements.
Would you eat it?
I know I'd eat it. I'd eat it and wash it down with a nice cold Budweiser. Yeah, if you do want to chime in with this, 805-666-2513. Hopefully, I don't miss any calls this time. Yeah, so let's get rolling with the moon landing. What do you say?
How about let's blast off with the moon landing. Huh? It's just dad joke corner over here, dude. I think that's what this is going to end up being. You guys, okay, I was going to say, you should probably switch to your face so I can see you glaring at me.
Oh, it's been like this.
Okay, good,
yeah.
because...
Yeah, that's...
All right, so let's blast off to the moon landing.
Okay.
I'm not going to be asked that.
I mean, so far you're carrying this. So on July 20th, 1969, we allegedly went to the... Right? There's a reason I picked that year. We allegedly went to the moon. At least they make it sound like that. The mission actually took just over 5 days.
Right.
So it's not like we went to the moon and back on July 20th, 1969. That was just like, that was the day that they blasted off.
Yeah, like when they say the moon is close, it's close by like space standards. It's not close by like, hey, I'm going to drive over to Greg's to record Hella Greg Live. I'll be back in an hour.
You're very right. It's hundreds of thousands of miles away.
Yeah, I want to say it goes between like 180 and 240 or something like that.
Cool thing about space is that there's nothing to slow you down. There's no friction.
Right.
which I learned about a thing called micrometeors.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's kind of how that movie with Sandy Bullock and old what's-his-face when she got trapped up in space, George Clooney.
I think it was called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.
But that's kind of how it's. Do you see that? I can't remember what it's called for the life of me right now.
I don't know.
But anyway, they're up in space, and a spacewalk goes terrible because a little comes through and like hits the satellite and pitches everything, and one of them gets chucked off into space. So there's a whole spoiler alerts, everybody.
Whoa.
Yeah, but that's where I was like, holy shit! I had
You know how
never
people
realized.
have thalassophobia?
Yes,
I think I realized mine is now deep space.
Yeah, the thing is though, is you're never gonna just accidentally end up in deep space. I mean,
Wormholes, buddy.
yeah, I suppose. Are we going there tonight?
If there's time.
All right,
There might not be time.
fair enough.
Got a pretty big Tuesday. So this going to space was a promise made by JFK and kept by NASA. In fact, here's a little audio of the president giving his speech.
Era, we're going to space. Dang, that is a pretty good speech.
But I do say that space can be explored and mastered without feeding the fires of war, without repeating the mistakes that man has made in extending his writ around this globe of ours. There is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet. Its hazards are hostile to us all. Its conquest deserves the best of all mankind, and its opportunity for peaceful cooperation may never come again.
Whoops.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon.
I always forget he got a dig at Rice in there.
Sick burn. Presidential burn.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
So, yeah, sick presidential burn.
Yeah, that dude fucked.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively. Paul said Pluto would have been more impressive, but Paul, we launched a satellite in like 74, and it passed Pluto like 6 years ago.
So, there's that.
I think, can you imagine Buzz just getting to Pluto? I'm here, guys.
Where's some guys I can punch in the face?
I don't think he... Hey, he knows he went there. That's why he punched him. Hey, but so I'm pretty sure the U.S. and NASA just announced a plan to return to the moon in 2024. Today. Like today, how coincidental. They knew what you were doing. They had to ride your coattails to the top, dude.
They had to get a step ahead of me. That's good. Hopefully that'll give this video some traction when people are searching moon landing. Hopefully this comes up. Because, that's not how you Google.
Let me give you just a quick NASA headline.
Okay.
NASA has selected 3 U.S. companies to design and develop human landing systems for the agency's Artemis program, one of which will land the first woman and next man on the surface of the moon by 2024. NASA is on track for sustainable human exploration of the moon for the first time in history. So if you didn't believe it now or then, okay, so let's just really quickly, I don't want to take you off topic too much, but
that's what we're here for.
If we get the video footage of them now, is it more convincing or is it less because of like what you can do with technology and CGI and shit? Like in the 60s, you see all this stuff and you're like, whoa, I'll you know what? Save your answer if you need, because I know there's a lot coming up, but that's kind of what's popping into my head right now is...
I think it's pretty conspicuous timing that they kept saying, it's not fiscally responsible to go back to the moon right now. That was the biggest thing about not going back, was that it's not financially a good idea.
Didn't they recently get one of their first bumps in recent history?
Well,
in as far as money goes?
my point, and I'll cover some budget stuff later, but my point is it's strange that all of a sudden now the deep fakes are like becoming really, really good. And you have that live CGI technology.
I guess that was kind of my question. Was like, is the conspiracy theories just going to be crazier now? Because you're like, dude, you could fake anything. The moon landing now ain't shit. Call Kubrick. I want to know what he thinks.
We'll see. We'll get into some of that. So that was a promise made by JFK. It was kept by NASA. Everyone in the U.S. was pretty much concerned that Russia was going to get to the moon first and establish rocket bases there. So the rumor goes, I mean, why wouldn't that be the first place that you go with that?
Dude, we've always been so afraid of the Russians.
So it goes, there was that. I mean, I understand why we were afraid of the Russians, and I understand why the Russians were afraid of us.
I know, I'm just saying it's a funny history that we have with the Russians.
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, the propaganda movies, Red Dawn and things like that have been made about it.
Wolverines!
No, it's funny because... So they were afraid of that in the 60s. In the 80s, Reagan had Operation Star Wars because he was concerned about it.
Reaganomics.
Reagan smash.
Reagan sleepy.
That always makes me think of Bob Dole. Bob Dole. And then now we have the establishment of what the artist formerly known as Space Force. They can't use that name anymore because Netflix sued them.
That's so great.
That's amazing.
Steve Carell's like,
genius. 1,000 IQ play. But my point is, like, it's always been a fear that somebody's going to get up there and dominate space, and U.S. is like, it's got to be us, because if it's not us, it's going to be a bad guy.
Right. They're all bad guys but us, right? Isn't that kind of the deal? No, I get it.
Red Dawn is a fantastic movie, too.
Oh, there is no doubt. The new one
wasn't bad.
Sucked.
Wasn't bad.
I mean, I guess...
For what it was?
What do you call... I mean, all right. It wasn't good.
Well. But it wasn't bad.
Avenge me!
So,
shit is sad, man.
Space also does kind of seem like the next logical step in the evolution of, man. But... Like, I don't think we're ready to make that leap. I would like to know more about the bottom of the ocean I want to know more about space, but I feel like we should master our own planet before we go out dipping our fingers in other planets.
So you want to get all the biodiversity in the trenches and the bottoms of the oceans and
I'd like to know what keeps something alive down there, because if we can find out what's alive down at the bottom of the ocean under tremendous pressure, in very cold temperatures.
Or very hot.
Or very hot
because they volcanic vents.
Exactly.
And there's like shrimp and bacteria that live directly on those volcanic vents.
In hundreds of degrees or more. So what I think is it would be important to know about that to understand life on other planets. Like we were talking about, what was that? The potential of life being discovered on
Venus.
On Venus.
They had there's traces of a certain gas in the atmosphere
that
would only be there if there had been living, like if there had been life on that planet. And I'm not sure to what that extends. If that's like, oh, there used to be plant coverage on this planet, or.
But that means there was something.
Yes,
living.
exactly. Which has never been a thing so far.
Yeah. So I think understanding our own planet and the extremes that it can provide can help us understand other planets and their extremes. And I feel like you got to love yourself before you can love anybody else. So, Earth's got to know who it is before it can go out there and start checking out.
I guess that makes sense, because it's like, what if we, what we learn all about these animals that survive near volcanic vents, which I have to imagine are quite sulfuric in the ocean. And I'm trying to look up the exact temperature of where these get. But then it's like, all right, we figured out we built this suit based on what these red tubes and these ghost fish and these certain shrimp that live near these volcanics. So we took their biology and built it into a suit, which we've done.
Right.
We looked at a peregrine falcon, and that's how we designed, jets and fighter jets, and nature designs perfect shit. And
right. It exists because it evolved to be that way.
Exactly. And so, part of me is just isn't that just the next step, is like you're saying, it's just to take this and say okay, we can do this now. Now this makes us far more possible and suitable to make a flyover on Venus.
Yeah.
Or, to put the first man on Venus in 25 years or something, because we've developed this shit based on.
That is a lofty timeline.
Well, I get, you know what I mean.
But hey, technology. I mean, for the distance, the amount of time in between the first manned flight, which was the late or the early 1900s, like 1911 or 1913 or something like that.
Sure.
And like the Wright brothers.
Right. I knew it was them, but
50 feet at 6 feet off the ground to the time that
they long floated.
Yeah, right. They glided.
1903.
1903 to 1969 when we put a man
It's
allegedly on
insane.
the moon.
It's insane.
Yeah, 66 years. So that's impressive. But 66 years after that, where are we going to be? How much faster are we going? Is the momentum picked up?
A lot.
So yes, I don't think people are ready to make that leap and be on other planets yet. But that's me.
Mars is first. We're already kind of invested there.
If you feel like chiming in on this too, 805-666-2513. You can tell me what you think. So basically, the Soviets were advancing in their space program after Operation Paperclip, where we basically split the German scientists after World War II with Russia. We got some, they got some, and then the Cold War started, and it was a space race, and it was built on bluffing. So it should be noted that while the Soviets were advancing, the U.S. was also putting out propaganda saying, "Oh yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that," which leads to the chest pounding of saying, "Yeah, we'll be on the moon before the end of the decade." It should be noted that U.S. government contracts usually go to the lowest bidder, so anybody building parts for the space program around this time would potentially be doing so for less than anyone else building the same parts. But that can contribute to the slowdown of progress, because now you got to find somebody to make this screw.
Right.
And whatever. So I'm not saying that's the case, but it's more of a statistical probability based on how I've seen every government bid ever done and how I've seen the contracts play out. And if you don't believe me, find yourself a government employee and ask them how long it takes them to get anything. The U.S. basically had a pretty tall order to fill, and it was falling pretty far behind. It would be more cost-effective to go to maybe a soundstage or something, I would think, and just fake it.
Like maybe in the desert of Nevada?
Potentially. According to an expert from a documentary, it was, I believe, Conspiracy Theories on Netflix. And he worked for an unnamed rocket company, which is credible. And he said the odds...
like it rhymes with Shmaybe Nell.
Right. He said the odds of going to the moon and returning were something like 0.00017%, or virtually impossible.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Well, yeah, so there is a chance. But you would have to send, 10,000 people to the moon to get one there?
Or just, like some people hit half-court shots in one try. You know what I'm saying?
Gotta get lucky, beginner's luck. So I guess that same expert said that they orbited the Earth for 8 days while the footage was shown and then returned. But the mission was just over 5 days, so I'm not trying to discredit this dude, but unnamed rocket company, wrong number of days, probably easily explainable mistakes, but
get good, dude.
Slip of the tongue. But if you're supposed to know your shit, know your shit. Like, you can't spit facts over here and then get dates wrong over here, because
hella conspiracies will expose you.
I don't expose shit. That just doesn't make
you
any
just
sense.
did, man. You fucking blew the lid off this thing. I'm calling this guy.
We're going worldwide.
Listen, Shmaybe Nell Laboratory. Oh wait, hold on. Oh shit, sorry.
So it just seems like if you're gonna mess up over here, you probably messed up over here too. It's like making a spelling mistake when you're arguing with somebody on the internet. Look, my Achilles heel.
That's why I have Grammarly.
Just to argue on the internet.
That wasn't a plug, but listen, man. If you're not real smart, it's a real great thing to have around.
Yeah.
Take it from me.
Ding. So the NASA's budget to get to the moon was a budget of approximately $40 million. In 2020, that budget looks something like $283.3 million.
Which is still even, I would have guessed much higher. It cost $6 billion to build dope stadiums. That's how much SoFi and Allegiant just can't, they were both about $6 billion price tags.
That's what I'm saying as far as these...
The lowest bidder thing?
Right, the lowest bidder thing, but that doesn't seem like enough money to go to space. That doesn't seem like enough money to go to space.
To space or to the moon and back? It seems like enough money to go to space. Like you do one of those Virgin.
I mean, like space proper, not upper atmosphere.
Yeah.
So
I'll just do one of those planes where it feels like you're doing 0G.
you get up in the
The
top,
parabolic
and
arc plane, you know?
start floating.
100% I'll puke. But I'm still going. One day.
I actually want to talk to you about some space orientation stuff later too.
Yeah.
So that doesn't sound like enough to make it to the moon. With the price of fuel and materials and computers and technology on the rise, and the government's contracting out to major companies instead of taking over production of their own parts, like Russia did about the same time. But that's communism, so that's not going to work. Instead, make big.
Or would it? I'm just kidding. I'm wearing blue.
But instead, that also instead they make big companies who get exclusive contracts richer, and that's capitalism. Thanks for coming to Econ 101, and have a good night. Seriously though, $40 million doesn't seem like enough to build a rocket and outfit it and send it to another planet. I know it's a moon, not a planet, but you get what I'm saying. They've got a $40 million budget in less than 10 years to design and build a rocket. Now remember that you have to pay your entire staff, plus the contracts that were awarded, and $40 million just doesn't seem like enough.
What if they were like, listen, we're gonna need you to build the rocket for us. We have like 150,000 followers, and we're gonna pay you an exposure. All right, like there's so many people who know what NASA is, and from NASA, we're totally gonna be like, yo, check out my dude Ron Jones. This guy can build a fucking mean rocket. All right.
I feel like if NASA was really smart, they would have argued for points on something like Apollo 13, where like we get oh, and it seems we have a caller. So you're on Hella Greg Live.
Hey, it's Franny. I don't know if you know me by Franny or Tugger 2020. Either way, my question is, what is the deal with the supposed towers on the moon?
Towers on the moon?
Yes. I was watching Ancient Aliens the other day, and they were showing towers on the moon.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, like monoliths built around the moon? I believe the official explanation for that is they're like impact craters. They're like the edges of impact craters where the rocks had pushed out and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't feel like the moon would be a sustainable place for anything to live. But if it were, say, a spacecraft, a spaceship,
some sort of hollow
space
moon?
station, yeah, I think it could, they could be antennae, they could be anything.
That's no moon.
So it was built, it wasn't natural, so it's built within the moon.
I wouldn't say it's not natural. Like I said, looking at some of these pictures like this, that kind of looks like, 4.5 miles is pretty big, but I could see how that would be debris settling after like an impact crater. Especially later on, we'll talk about some of the physics of the moon. Not a whole lot because, I'm not a physician, but there's weird stuff happening with the atmosphere of the moon.
Or non-atmosphere.
Okay.
Or lack of atmosphere, I guess.
Right. I was just wondering.
Oh, well, I appreciate the call.
Thank you, Franny.
Of course. Of course. You're welcome. Love you guys.
We love
Bye.
you too.
Bye.
So, yeah, towers on the moon, impact craters.
I've seen some of those photographs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like this one kind of looks like a monolith. It looks like an antenna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
So, like I said, with the military budget, or with the budget, $40 million doesn't seem like enough. For a frame of reference, the U.S. military budget for 2019... Did you read this in the notes?
No, I just have a pretty good idea of what it is.
So it cost $40 million for NASA to go to the moon. For reference, the U.S. military budget for 2019 breaks down to roughly $66,295,000 an hour. So there's that. $40 million is more than enough to fake a moon landing, or I guess especially in 1969, because
Nice.
Fun fact: there was also a movie about the very same thing that debuted within a couple of years called Capricorn 1, and it was about planet, or it was about them going.
Kubrick was like, "Yo, I can't write this, but I got this fucking idea for you, dude. I'll sell it to you."
He's like, "I already did it. This is old news, but if you want to, what do you mean you already did it? Nothing. Shut up.
Shut up. I'll put you in my fucking trunk.
You know Godfather? That wasn't a joke, bro. I don't think that was him either. I think that was Scorsese. Yeah. I'm terrible with movies. Again, you want to get in on this, 805-666-2513. We can talk about some of the big arguments about why the moon landing was fake. The lack of stars seems to be one that really jumps out. And Jesse, I know you've done a lot of photography.
The moon is fucking bright, dude.
Yeah, it allegedly, well, I would think if they were going to fake it, if they were going to fake the moon landing, step one would have been add stars.
Unless they knew that. So, like, let me pose this question to you.
Paul, hold on. Paul, I know it says I'm playing 7 Days to Die. I can't stream to Facebook without a game. So, that's it. Anyway.
Yeah. So, I'm not a professional photographer. I know a little bit about photography. If you were to photograph in a completely white room where directly above it was a spotlight equivalent of that power that the sun's rays would be reaching the moon and reflecting off, if you could somehow simulate the surface of the moon's reflection and the power that the sun would be getting, I know we're talking a ridiculous simulation, but if you were able to do that and take a photo from right in the center of that room out into the night sky, I would almost guarantee there'd be no stars in that photograph.
Right.
Whether you did flash, and listen, digital photography has changed shit that like you couldn't put on film before. You can go way low in the light scale and get things, but even still, dude, how bright is the moon when it's out at night? Like, there are no dull moons. There are nights where you don't see all the moon,
right.
But that is a very bright celestial object, is very close, and the reflection of it is very bright. I didn't research any of this. That's my own theory as to why you would not see any stars.
I believe, and I think it's in here, but I believe the moon reflects about 12% of the light that hits it.
So how much does the Earth reflect? How far away can you see the pale blue dot as compared to something like the moon that's in a much lighter color? Seems like the moon would be more reflective as it does not have atmosphere, and is like white and gray essentially.
Land reflects 10 to 25% of sunlight, and clouds reflect around 50%. Thus, the part of the Earth where it is daytime and from where the moon is visible determines how bright the Earth's shine on the moon appears at any given time.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, that's just my guess as to why. If there's no atmosphere and it's just a bright body you're shooting from, but I don't know. Someone might be going, dude, you're a fucking idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about. And that's
you've got no clue.
That's very, very true. But that would just be my first inkling as an explanation if you asked me why. What's the official?
I also am an idiot. But I have some information. According to Vintage Space on YouTube, using a knowledge of aperture and shutter speed coupled with light sources, astronauts focused on brighter objects, such as the moon, as opposed to the darker object, the night sky, which is why objects on the moon are in such high detail while the sky behind them is not.
And it makes sense. Like, you focus on
the bright object.
They weren't taking pictures of the sky. They'd seen the stars before. They were at the moon, man.
Yeah. I don't know much about photography, so I don't know enough to argue with it. But basically, like I said, the moon reflects about 12% of the light that hits it. It reflects into the lens and washes out the stars, and the photos that show are the same. Also, there's photos that show the same mountain range on the moon with and without the lunar module, so that's a little out of place. And I put that in the wrong spot.
I mean, are they the exact same exact same angle in the photograph? Because the lunar module is not that big.
Pretty much. Same hill and rock formations are visible on 2 different days, miles apart, because they would hike.
I see.
But you're getting the same background, same backdrop. It's like it never moved, and the base pretty much stayed. But yeah, it's weird. I really don't have a whole lot for that. It's just odd. I mean, best guess is that footage was probably mislabeled. The film was titled something wrong, and put in the wrong spot with the wrong label on it or something. I mean, you're in charge of one of the most important missions to the human race. Why take an extra 5 seconds to make sure you labeled it right? Right?
Mistakes happen.
Yeah. The flag waving is a big one that I hear. There is no atmosphere on the moon, so there's no wind, so the flag should not be.
But for that exact same reason is why when you like stake it into the ground and it starts moving, it would take way longer because the top. We all know the top has the bar to keep the flag.
Well, see, we don't all know that. A lot of people think it's just the reason that the flag is outright like that is because the wind is moving.
Okay, so everybody listen to me right now. It's a fucking L, okay? The flag is being held out by a top bar so that the flag is always out because they knew there was no fucking atmosphere on the moon. However, I think when they just struck that shit into the ground.
That's not how they did it.
Listen, did they touch it? I'm pretty sure there's photographs of them like with their hands on it. Shit. That's what
totally.
I'm saying.
They had to assemble it.
Right. Is I'm imagining that some movement happened and just like you were saying, we're on a rock with no atmosphere or a space station, whatever, with no atmosphere. So the drag is far less than it is here. So everybody is just like, well, I've seen
about a sixth.
There you go. So it would take six
Slow
times.
Down,
It would
Tubby,
take.
You're not on the moon yet.
It would take 6 times longer to slow down. If I'm not, I mean, that might be bad math, but if it's the drag on the moon is not the same as the drag on Earth. So anytime something bumped that, or
that's the same thing with micrometeors.
Yeah,
Little
right.
grain of sand moving super fast because there's nothing there to slow it down. The space is a vacuum.
And we get things that are much bigger than that just get ripped apart in the atmosphere and land. So that, I mean, to me, that's
atmosphere.
It's an L, everybody. If you ain't know, now you know.
Sarah said it wobbled. Yeah, it wobbled. It got put together.
Yeah. Or you like bumped into it or some shit, and then it takes.
I think I know what she's talking about though. It looks like it rippled at the bottom, like it was blowing in the wind. I've seen it. It does look like it's blowing in the wind. But
didn't you just say it? It looks like it's blowing in the wind.
Looks like it's blowing in the wind.
Okay. I'm just gonna be the guy arguing for the fact that this happened.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not saying it didn't happen. All I'm saying is here's the information that's out there.
I didn't say that I was arguing you. I was saying that I'm going to be the guy saying that it happened.
We're parsing through this together.
Yes, we're in this together. We've been holding hands. You guys can't see because that part of the camera's not on it, but it's clammy.
It's warm in here. So yeah, there are photos of the flag clearly blowing in the wind. Obviously, kind of rippled the same way the flag does on a pole on Earth. Again, Vintage Space covered this. The flags were engineered. They were a multi-piece system that had a crossbar, like, Jesse said.
All we are is flags in the wind.
My boy Blue.
Oh.
So they did have a crossbar. The bottom part was hammered into the ground. The upper portion was attached, and then the crossbar, and voila, the flag on the moon. So that's most likely why it wobbled. There was a lot of people, I was talking to somebody earlier today who who said the same thing, that their grandmother didn't think that the moon landing was real. And I guess I could see that, like, being older and then living your whole life.
Imagine if you were 60 then, like, they flew for the first time ever, and your, like, older sister was like, I was there. I saw that shit take off. It was crazy. I could see, being like, there's no fucking way.
Well, so if you're 60
in 69, and
then 6 years before you were born, they flew for the first time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, like your older sister told you about that shit. Like, it wasn't, you didn't even have to hear from your mom. Your older sister was like, no, yeah, I knew those right guys.
Yeah.
I can imagine being
those
an
Wright
older
brothers
person
are at
and-
it again.
and being like, yeah, right. They flew an airplane like half a dozen years before I was born. They're not putting a craft on the moon yet. Sorry,
Right.
that'll happen way after I'm dead.
I could totally. I mean, I understand being skeptical of it.
I mean, even now, I'm in my early 30s, and there's some technology that pops up that I'm like, how is that a thing? Like, we're from the transitional generation. We grew up without, most of our childhood, we're latchkey kids. Like, I was a latchkey kid.
We had, like, I mean, as far as technology goes,
we had video games.
Yeah, but they were the primitive. They were the 8-bit.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is like we were the
say primitive like I know shit about video games.
We were the transition where we had that, and some people had computers from the I mean, I didn't have a computer in my house until I think probably 6th or 7th grade.
The formative years.
Yeah. You've got mail. Yeah, right. Nobody was sneaking in on that. It's like
I'm just going to download this funny picture my friend sent me. I'll be back in 45 minutes. Nobody take any phone calls.
Oh, yeah. But that's what I'm saying is like there are even things now that blow my mind that I'm not fully convinced of. So I those people are allowed to be like,
and
no fucking way.
You're one of the more open-minded people that I know. So,
whoa, man, don't be telling people that.
So a little bit about the lunar module. There was no blast crater where it would have landed. There was also no engine noise in the official NASA footage. Those rocket engines should have been around 140 to 150 decibels. For reference, the loudest,
pretty sure
like the loudest NFL stadiums were like 130.
Right.
Soccer stadiums get up to like 150. So think about how loud. Like remember World Cup when they had the vuvuzelas.
It's the worst thing ever.
It was the best thing ever because it sounded like a swarm of bees were in your head.
You literally thought that the first time I was watching a game. I was like, what is happening? Is that like the largest nest of hornets of all time?
Yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, there is no way for sound to travel through space. That's why they're all radioed up. That's why
we'll get there.
Like that's why even I don't mean to Neil deGrasse Tyson this too much and just be an asshole and ruin it, but like if there was an explosion in space, you would not hear it. If there were lasers, they would not go. You would just see lasers coming at you. If somebody were
there would be no fire.
Like the Alien tagline is based on science, and it's scary. No one can hear you scream.
Okay, I've got you. So you did read the outline.
I didn't. I'm just baller.
Well, this is all in there.
Sorry.
No, that's
why I'm here.
It's fine. This is fine.
I'm never gonna.
So yes, space is a vacuum and therefore has no air, which also means it has no air for sound waves to travel on. That's why in space no one can hear you scream.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. This is, like I said, this is fine. There are videos of currently out there, like you can go to YouTube and find out videos of astronauts doing spacewalks on the International Space Station and using power tools, and there's zero sound. There's also no atmosphere on the moon, so it stands to reason that sound waves wouldn't really travel very well there either.
Right.
Pretty much exactly what you were saying.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. That's we're here to learn. We're here to discuss. We have the same information. That's good.
I just got excited about that one because that's one of the more like just so easily debunked of the like, whoa, what the fuck's going on here? Like, I'm not very.
Is it now? Because there
actually is no Cape Canaveral.
Yeah, well, actually, sometimes there were sound waves and you could hear them because their excuse, the suit acted like a drum.
So like percussive sound waves.
Well, it's pressurized. So your suit's pressurized, and so there's tension across the surface. So like if you flick a balloon, you can hear it.
Like you feel it.
Yeah, it's still vibrating the same things like it would, but what you're getting is a muffled sound.
Okay.
So there's that. But we're clearly able to hear and understand what the crew is saying on board. But that's radio stuff.
Yeah, they're all over radios.
I know. Just saying these are some of the arguments that are out there. We're covering the arguments.
Right. I'm not mad at you. I'm just mad at idiots.
I'm mad at the situation.
I don't mean to project. Okay.
So they tested a prototype of the lunar module. Armstrong lost control at around 300 feet above the ground, ejected moments before impact. So I wonder how much of the $40 million budget that ate up.
That one ejector pole.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
They're like, hey, yeah, sort it. You're at 500 feet. Sort it. 400 feet, buddy. Sort it.
Shit.
Fuck, man.
Buzz.
Come on. Also, that thing uses it uses a single rocket motor and 3 thrusters to stabilize it. So it uses
so it's like the
counterforce.
rocket in the middle, and then it's like almost triangular, right?
Basically, more or less, yeah. So there's that. It also uses around 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of thrust to descend, which is apparently not enough to make a crater, but only, quote, moves some dust, according to NASA. I would think 2,000 pounds of anything coming down inches above dirt would leave a crater.
Right, but craters are from impacts, not from pressure, not from like pounds of pressure, because that thing didn't come down and go boom and like land like that. It landed 2,000 pounds of thrust means that
it had 2,000 pounds of pressure pushing up.
Right.
But you would think that the pressure coming off the bottom would cause it to would like, have you ever held compressed air over like a pile of dirt and blow it away?
Yeah.
Same concept, that there would be a crater there where...
I don't think so. I think it would move dust until it hit the hard pan, as it were, and then, it would move away the top layer with the air. Like, what I think is like, okay, so if you took an elephant, which I'm going to guess weighs about 2,000 pounds, probably more. But if you took an elephant and you lowered it at the same speed that the lander hit the surface of the moon, is it going to make a crater?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I wonder. It feels like it would probably land and like
land softly.
Maybe not softly, but it would land and it would like push all the dirt away, and then it would be like
okay, so
an elephant laying on the.
Okay.
So did no dirt move? Did no dust? I guess I can't. I'm not picturing the landing footage so well in my head right now.
Even though the scientific drawings from NASA do show a blast crater, they said there will be a blast crater. Because you got to remember, this thing did take off too.
Right. See, that's a different story. Landing is one thing. Taking off and creating all of the pressure from...
So, to be fair, it is an estimate and an illustration. So, I don't know.
What about the vacuum?
I would assume with the lack of
well, things can move in a vacuum,
right? But they move without friction. There's no gravity pull, or there's less gravity pulling it down.
Well, right? Wasn't that like why moon dust was like such a problem? Like it was worse than like sand at the beach. It was just getting everywhere because it just gets up and like doesn't go back down. Every time they're jumping and shit, they're just kicking it up all over one another.
We'll cover it.
Damn it!
No, it's fine. This is good.
I'll read it next time.
It's called foreshadowing, and I'm good with it. I do really like vintage space. This lady is amazing. Go look her up. She's on YouTube. To get up on out of there, it had a maximum thrust of 10,500 pounds of pressure pushing up. And the reason, like, when you're watching the space shuttle take off, the spot below where the thrusters are,
like huge launch pad,
but it's a lake. It's all water because it absorbs the concussion. Otherwise, it would shake itself apart trying to push up off the Earth.
Interesting.
The concussions of it would essentially blow the whole thing.
It's got to get like the water gives more than the ground.
And
does.
that's why what you see when it's all white coming out, it's all steam. Well, not all steam, but a good portion of it's steam because you're above water. Yeah, you're putting rocket engines on a lake.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was cool.
Heard those get hot.
Yeah. So it had a maximum thrust of 10,500 pounds. The descent engine had to pretty much run the show. It was throttleable, but they were only able to control it on the way down. So they had no way to control the...
So it was just like, yo, we're launching this shit up and be in the right spot.
Yep. Hopefully you're there. We'll see you maybe. Otherwise, get you on the next time around. There's also the fact that, a sixth of the gravity on the moon as it is on Earth. Probably easier to get up off there. According to this video, that means that the thrust would have been less and the force would have been misdirected more and allowed for the energy to billow out from underneath the module when it was landing.
Like 10,000 pounds of force on Earth is...
Well, again, it had a maximum of 10,000. They said they used about 6,500 tops.
So then would that same...
Or around 2,000 pounds.
Would that equation be the same then? Would it be 1/6 the amount of force?
It would be... they would be using 2,000 pounds, but coming down with a sixth of the amount of pull.
Okay.
And then again, with the lack of atmosphere. It caught, instead of the energy coming out like that, like it was designed, it's coming straight out or coming out in billowing, almost making like a cushion.
Yeah.
So I would have thought that the moon had less gravity than us. It would be the thrust would be more powerful, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned. I don't know. Probably has a lot to do with ambient air pressure too, like just the pressure around it.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are footprints. The rocket should have blown all the dust away on its descent. In fact, one of the transmissions you hear instead of rocket noise is them mentioning that all the dust that's being kicked up as it's landing. There's a lunar orbiter that has spotted footprints and rover tracks where the module was. So you'd think, when it did take off, it probably would have blown all that dust away, but whatever. Allegedly. On a planet with a sixth of the gravity of Earth, the dust should be long gone and not settling anywhere near the module, but there's a lot of footprints in the dust surrounding the module. If the dust did settle back around the lunar lander, the lander should have had dust all over the foot pads and all over the module itself, but all the photos, you pretty much see shiny Mylar. So, it's there's a lot to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's
If you got a theory or something you missed, again, 805-666-2513, call it in, let people know. Another one, this was filmed at Area 51.
That's my favorite one. It was like Kubrick, and they filmed it at Area 51, and it was all on the sound stage. And I mean, I've seen the videos where it's like, look at this rock is here, and then later, 2 days later, Buzz clearly passes the same rock 1.6 miles away on the moon. I'm like, yeah.
Have you seen the Sea Rock?
Yeah, I think that's like the one I'm thinking.
Or
It's
or the high heel shoe print on the moon?
I don't know that I've seen that, but
It looks like, it just looks like a lady, like the dust is all smooth and it looks like a lady's high heel. It's the triangle with the dot.
Don't fuck with what Buzz does on the moon. He's like, check this out, guys. Don't tell anybody, or I'll fucking kill you and leave you here.
I'll wait till your grandkids grow up and I'll punch them in the face. Again, still think I could take Buzz right now.
Right now, yeah. 5 years ago, probably not.
I don't think either of us were in fighting shape 5 years ago. So Russian spy satellite imagery, so take that for what it's worth, of Area 51 shows large hangars and that look like sound stages from the outside.
Well, you could fly over any Air Force base and be like, there's hangars there large enough to fake the moon landing. Like, yeah, they have to park airplanes inside that, you fucking asshole. They gotta park.
False. You can't fly over Air Force bases.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Satellite photos. But, like, they're developing, like, SR-71 Blackbirds. And if you haven't seen one of those in real life, that's one of the, I'm not like a huge plane guy or anything, but of the cool planes in the world, an SR-71 Blackbird should be up there on most people's lists. And a few years ago, I was in Oregon and got to go to like an aviation museum, and one of them was there. It was unfathomably large. It was like
The SR-71.
Yeah, it was so big.
At some point, I want to do an Area 51 one of these, and the SR-71 and the U-2 spy plane are things I want to talk about.
Yeah, or
those things
is the U-2 the stealth bomber?
U-2 was the predecessor.
B-2 is the stealth bomber, right?
Right. The U-2 was the predecessor to the SR-71. That's what they used for a long time until somebody let the cat out of the bag about the SR-71. They were like, yeah, so we have this thing called the Blackbird.
We've had one actually going around for like 40 days now.
Like years.
Yeah.
And then somebody was like, oh yeah, they have this, and they were like, shit.
Like, here, check it. We'll fly it low enough so you guys can see.
Right.
Wait. Can you do it again? Yeah, no problem. Just give us like 8 minutes. We'll make another lap.
Right. So, I'm sorry. Brittany said, what if some of the astronauts that are scheduled to do another landing were skeptical about the first one? Their point of view before and after they go back would be interesting. So, yeah, some of the people who have been to space, maybe not necessarily to the moon.
Oh, I see.
Because I think...
Like, curious what their thoughts, like, hearing what they have to say before and then after they come back?
Yeah.
Because, like, if you think about, like, what... I keep giving Buzz because he's just the one that's still around and, like... But, like, imagine the life experience re-entering the atmosphere in a pod knee to knee with, were there 4 of them, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Just like, like, is that when you just start singing Amazing Grace or some shit? Like you're breaking through the atmosphere.
According to The Simpsons, it was the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, that's right. Teddy Grahams on the way up.
No, Homer was singing Teddy Grahams on the way down, but they were all singing the...
But that's what I mean. Imagine what a harrowing experience being in a tuna can re-entering the atmosphere. Like,
well, wait till we get to some of that stuff, because there's... Oh, yeah, buddy. So again, Nevada has a barren moon-like surface in the desert. Double gasp.
Everywhere that has a desert has a moonlight
with lots of craters. In fact, the Nevada High Desert is where they tested aircraft and missiles and things like that. So it makes sense. It was even compared to the high desert in some of the radio transmissions. You can hear him say things like, this looks like Nevada.
So would that just be a fucking extra funny quip? Or wouldn't you try to avoid saying shit? Like, you're like filming in Nevada.
Yeah.
And you're like, watch this. Watch what I'm going to say right now. Houston.
When we eventually
looks a lot
get
like
to
Nevada around here.
When we eventually get to it and cover it, and like with JFK and stuff, we'll talk about the double bluff and the rare triple bluff.
Okay.
That shit's out there, bro. Believe it. You look like you don't believe it.
I have a hard time.
So, it's like when people like leave a calling card, wink, we did it.
Yeah, I get it. The Wet Bandits left the sing song.
No, Marv, we're the Sticky Bandits now. So the part of the mystery of Area 51 is that the moon landing sets are still there, because why would you strike a set after you were done with production? And that's why everything's so secretive, that if somebody were to get in the right spot, they could do the whole like, holy cow, because you look, that's the moon, that's the hill from the moon.
Like what?
Okay, I agree that's borderline ridiculous.
We've just left the setup for 60 years. Why? Oh, we like it extra dangerous. We're hoping someone stumbles upon it. We love the ritual execution every now and again, and we can't do it for no reason.
I think it's less that they left the setup and more that it's the desert, and so it's land that the government bought, and you can't access it, and it becomes part of Nellis Air Force Base or Area 51
right.
or Groom Lake or any of those. And what it is that's where they filmed it, so they call it a set, but that's just the restricted area that they filmed everything. And the reason they don't let people in there is because somebody, like, have you seen the picture of the guy who found the cliff from the Cliff Bar commercial or the Cliff Bar ad?
No.
Yeah, you know how people like, there's a whole subreddit for shit like that.
I'm sure.
So
finding the impossible.
Well, like, people would take like a picture from 1940s Germany and hold it up, and it's in the same spot, and you could see what things look like now. And,
Yeah.
Right. The fact that could happen.
Yeah.
Is probably why, unless they were to just go out there. I mean, you got a bunch of missiles, be like, hey, this is the target. We just go ahead and reshape the landscape. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Right.
But then when
you
they
can do that with construction equipment. It doesn't even have to be missiles.
Unless they go back to the moon and need to see the same thing. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Because they never went.
It just seems like, why would you wait 50 years to do it again if it's just so easy to put back together and you got the land? And...
It's not that it's so easy to put back together. You have the mountains are there.
I feel like if it were a thing where we could just do it. It's a soundstage. Like, we're going to make it seem fucking crazy. We're going to make it seem impossible. It would have happened in 2002 or 2003. You know what I mean? Like, America was coming together. Like, we needed this, like, this morale boost. Like,
they had a forever war that everybody was coming together around. They didn't need this.
It could have been so much better.
Yeah, no, we could have. You mean we could have gone to the moon again, but instead we chose to just bomb a country to
Yeah, forever wars are tight, I guess.
Yeah, it's what makes money, baby. So yeah, that's why everybody's so hush hush about Area 51. That's the only reason why.
It's almost as if it's some type of well-known secret.
So again, we'll talk about the departure from the moon. No exhaust from the engine on departure. It just kind of popped up like it was jerked by a cable. Was the end of the quote. And still no sound. Again, I would guess it still needs a considerable amount of thrust to take off from the lunar surface. It also stands to reason that the thrusters were attached to the lunar module because it wouldn't lift off otherwise. Those rockets apparently don't produce enough vibration that travels through the tin can that they're all sitting in with the open radios, as well as their suits acting like drums while they're strapped into this monster trying to lift off from the lunar surface, so that no sound traveled that path and wound up on tape. I think that's fucking weird. I feel like when you're strapped into something and that thing is vibrating, even when you're talking in a microphone and it's just an open mic, it'll pick it up. It would pick up the rumble.
Sound gates are not a new thing.
I know sound gates are not a new thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In a radio situation where you're going to be sitting super close, it seems to me like the best thing would be, it's going to pick up things that are loud, that are.
Well, and their microphones sit like right here.
That's what I'm saying. Is like
the Xbox headset.
It's not grabbing shit that's 10 inches away, just because it's not.
But if your suit's acting like a drum, you think you'd hear in the background of everything, but you don't hear anything.
Maybe, but again, if it's only, I don't know what kind. I would be curious to see the official explanation as to why it's not doing that. I'm sure they've got one.
I'm sure they do. Some egghead out there's shilling for the man. So also there's the photographic proof. Poor photo quality is allegedly the fault of the transmitter and the available technology at the time. I think it's pretty impressive that they were able to broadcast that live simultaneously across the entire world, considering that the technology at the time. In fact, let's talk about the technology at the time.
Sure.
Color TV was only out for about 16 years at the time. December 17th, 1953 is when Color TV came out.
Okay.
December 17th.
Nice.
Yeah, share a date with The Simpsons and Color TV.
There you go.
I wonder if that was done on purpose. If so, very nice. Matt Groening, very meta.
Probably not.
You never know.
I do not never know.
Count the negatives. It lines up. Also, we were 2 years away from having a floppy disk and about 5 years from Post-its and the UPC code and a Rubik's Cube. So
I miss floppy disks.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So NASA also controlled the video in, obviously, but little sus.
Is it? What did they get like an outside organization? Like, yo, we know that people are going to think we faked this. So in order to preempt all of that, we actually have CNN taking over, and they're going to do the in on this, just so we don't seem sus.
I mean,
yo, NASA seems sus. Everybody vote NASA.
NASA was the imposter.
I knew it. I told you at the beginning.
So apparently, if you take some of the footage from them, jumping around on the moon or driving the rover and stuff,
double it or something.
Yeah, double the speed. It does react like it would. It looks exactly like it would on Earth. So it looks like it's just slowed down.
It looks kind of silly.
It definitely doesn't. It doesn't look like fast forward footage. It looks like awkward, clunky, regular footage.
Okay.
To me. It also shows the astronauts running like they would in clunky space suits on Earth. Still, the photos were awkward and hard to take. The person who designed the chest-mounted camera said they were clunky and hard to use. The astronauts also couldn't look down and see the camera. If they did, they would fall forward. They were too chest heavy. Like toddlers when they look at their feet and they just they were large, cumbersome spacesuits and were not conducive to taking photos. They had no viewfinder either, so they had to move their whole body into position to take whatever they hope was a centered and focused shot.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, I mean, imagine you're take a photo of that mountain range. Yeah. Okay, is it in focus?
No idea.
Probably. Okay, this is for the posterity of mankind. My eyes were closed.
Take it again.
So that's,
Yeah.
Again, you better hope you don't fuck those photos up. That shoot cost $40 million. Amazingly, everything came out perfect. Good job, guys. Autofocus.
Good job, guys.
Again, we talked about a little bit about the lighting. The only light source that they had on the moon was the sun. There were no external lights on the lunar module or their suits. However, in Apollo 14, there appears to be two different light sources. The same thing with Apollo 17. There exists a photo and video of astronauts descending the ladder, and they should be in almost total darkness because there's no external light source, right? But they're completely visible in the shadows, and when the sun was behind one of the astronauts, everything on the front side of his suit is still visible. So it's not like he was silhouetted out like he should have been when you're backlit.
So the lunar lander didn't have any type of external lights on it?
No, they just relied on the brightness of the moon.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, they had sun visors because the moon was so bright.
Right.
There's even a small light visible just down into the left of the crosshairs in the middle of their helmet visor. Like, if you look at the reflection of one of the guys taking the photos, you can see there's a light like down into the left, and it's
like you can see the reflection of a stage light. You're saying,
right? Well, they have light source. There's a light source somehow, and his shadow somehow it just looks weird in the reflection. The moon reflects sunlight, and that's why it appears to glow at night. So I'm willing to concede some of the lighting issues to that. However, the detail available in the photos is amazing for a maybe centered, maybe focused, maybe properly lit photograph. So I think that's NASA's still a little sus.
So are you saying, I guess, moving back to the guy who designed the camera, that the dude who designed it is a denier? Who's like, yo, I made that camera. Ain't no fucking way they took these pictures with that shit.
No, it's more like he said these things are hard to use, and you gotta know what you're doing to use them. And I mean, assuming these guys had how long to train for their mission, that was probably something that they covered.
Yeah.
You know, here's how you're going to turn and focus and take the shot, and this is where you need to be. This is where your hands need to be.
Muscle memory's crazy.
Yeah. So you can also the details are so good on some of those photos that you can read the words United States on the back of the backlit lunar module. So it's backlit on, it's got the light source on the back, and on the shadowed side you can still read United States on it.
Sure.
Some of the crosshairs were etched onto the lenses of the lunar cameras, which means they should be in the foreground of every image. Everything else would be behind the crosshairs, right?
Oh yeah, I remember this one.
Yeah. There's a very clear photo showing the lunar rover with the crosshairs behind it, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Again, I don't know why somebody would be like, oh yeah, let's put crosshairs out there in the thing to make it look like they're on the camera.
Yeah.
This is gonna give me a nosebleed. There's also a second photo showing. There's also a second photo showing some equipment on the ground covering a crosshair. There's also a photo of an astronaut holding the flag out. The flag and the pole are covering part of the crosshair, and the astronaut is covering another part of a different crosshair. I think some of that, what that implies is that the crosshairs were on the photo. They photoshopped people into the thing instead of having crosshairs in the actual physical background. But if they're going to go as far as to Photoshop crosshairs into photos, or even photoshopping astronauts into photos, you'd think they would take the time to get that little bit right.
Oversights, man. Oversights.
I guess. Again, if you want to get in on this conversation, 805-666-2513.
I think my argument for this last time was that a bunch got damaged, or the pictures were just so shitty that they were like, dude, we got to fucking have something. And they did fake photos.
That could be like promotional photos. Hey guys, we're gonna take these for the posters that you guys are gonna sign at air shows for the next 20 years.
That, or legitimately, they're like, we don't have shit. You guys went to the fucking moon and we don't have goddamn anything.
Well, let's talk about this. The radiation belt.
Yeah.
The Van Allen belt. It would have wiped all the film.
Unless it were in radiation-proof boxes, right?
So 500 miles above the Earth, hundreds of miles thick, anything moving through that radiation belt would have or should have been very ill or died due to exposure to radiation. With the exception of going to the moon, we haven't been above the radiation belt. All manned missions have been below it to that point. They would have needed approximately 6 feet of lead shielding to survive. So I feel like...
So I guess then what about the non-man shit? So then is Mars faked? Like, wouldn't that wipe out all the electronics that are on a lunar module or a module that landed on Mars? We were just talking about, why can't I think of the name of the satellite?
Sputnik.
Yep, that's the one. No, the one that got photographs of Neptune and got photographs of Pluto. Voyager. Like, that thing's been floating out there for 40 years, and it definitely passed through that shit. Like, So those, I mean, so every photo of space is faked then.
Well, see, those are transmitted. Those aren't film.
Yeah, but I mean,
Those are that's transmitted back.
I see. So the rad doesn't do anything to any other type of electronics. It just does it to film.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can take a. I would assume you could take something and put it out there in the radiation and have it.
Yeah,
bring it out of the radiation.
I mean, I don't know enough about radiation.
It could be decontaminated versus your
just
human
saying
meat
that, like,
being contaminated.
So, like, the amount of radiation you get from an X-ray machine is blocked by the little lead vest they throw on you. The amount of radiation in the Van Allen belt is so much so that you would need a 6-foot thick radiation vest in order to protect yourself or anything that you're taking through it.
Correct.
Okay.
But they didn't have that. What they had was a tuna can wrapped in Mylar. Magnetic storms on the sun can increase the intensity of the radiation belt, and the moon landing was around the same time as one of the biggest solar storms ever recorded. So but the astronauts had no adverse effects. So they traveled through the Van Allen belt just fine. The astronauts had liquid-cooled spacesuits because it gets to be negative 250 degrees in the shade and plus 250 degrees on the sun.
No atmosphere.
Or in the sun on the moon. There's no atmosphere to protect it, exactly. So that's, a couple of things to ponder there. Again, 805-666-2513 if you want to get in on this. Brittany makes a good point. That actually does make sense if the pictures were shit that they did take, that they would have photoshopped.
Because they can't say, oh, we didn't get any viable photographs. They've got to say, here they are, baby.
Do you think it would have humanized America a little more if they were like, hey, look, we didn't get all of them. Here's some of what
Before
we
you
did.
even finish your question, we're America. We don't fuck with humanizing.
I know. I'm just saying.
Do I think it would have? Yeah. I respect anybody who can own their mistake over someone who's going to make that same mistake and be like, I didn't do that. No, I didn't.
Nope, not me.
Yeah, like transparency to me is key. So yeah, would that have humanized? Would it have been like?
Do you think it would have put to bed some of the conspiracy around the moon landing being like, well, how do they get the photos? Like, is it just taking away one more piece of evidence?
I mean, there's always going to be a group of people. You know what I mean? But I do think that it would take. I mean,
Sarah's on board with the photo idea as well.
Yeah.
Good.
I just think that, yeah, it would have, and it would have put a lot more transparency into it. So much so that one might think that if they were able to say, yeah, that's the case, they would be transparent about everything across the board.
Right.
So you can believe what they're saying because they're saying, look, we fucked up big. Like, we literally don't have pictures. We have this one video and we have a bunch of this blurry bullshit because we rushed the camera production and it is not good. And sorry.
We wasted $40 million.
Yeah, here's some fucking rocks we found, dude. Right.
I got a bunch of moon dust. Mm-hmm. I hate it. It's
is
sticky.
That 40 million adjusted? Was it 40 million then?
It was 40 million then.
Okay, so what's that now?
283.2 million.
Okay.
It's
a $250 million.
Right. But still, that's why I said the U.S. government spends over $66 million an hour on military spending.
Yeah.
So, over the course of this show, they've spent over almost $67 million.
Wild.
Do you feel safer?
America.
Do you feel safer?
America.
Oh, apparently they agree with humanizing and confessing about fudging the photos back then. If they'd come clean right up front.
It's just like, I mean, they come up clean about that, then you have to believe they're going to come clean about
the smaller mistakes.
If you did not immediately disbelieve the whole thing.
It's like that story of the kid that ordered porn with his dad's credit card and then recorded it to tape, and then his dad got angry and he photoshopped the bill to say Titanic, and his dad got mad at him for renting Titanic with the credit card, but had no idea about the porn. And he was like, sometimes to make the big heist, you got to take a small hit.
Yeah.
So if they'd taken the small hit with the photos, they could have completed the big heist about faking the moon landing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reasonable. These are reasonable thoughts to have.
It's like when Lisa called Homer and asked to take a limo to the museum because Marge said she couldn't take the bus. So Homer's like, a limo?
No daughter of mine's going to take a limousine.
You ride the bus.
Nothing's too good for you. There were some suspicious deaths around the moon landing program. There's an outspoken critic of space programs named Gus Grissom. He said, someone's going to get killed. And on January 27th, 1967, he boarded the capsule for a simulation. The communication system failed, and then it caught fire with the crew inside. Grissom, Roger Chaffee, and Ed White all died.
Was this the one where it was like the pure oxygen environment and there was a spark? And
Grissom's family believes it was an intentional fire. They allege that NASA knows the truth, and there's still no resolution on what actually caused the fire as the capsule is locked away. So they didn't do like a forensics analysis on it. They locked
Or
it.
they did, and they're just like, yo, he signed the thing. You guys know. That's what I got to imagine, that he signed a thing that says like, yo, we own you now. Like, whatever happens, happens. This isn't public information anymore, buddy.
Thomas Ronald Barron, he was a safety inspector during the Apollo 1 being built. He said the program was so scattered that there was no way they would get to the moon. He detailed the whole thing in a 500-page report that he submitted, and people in high places were concerned he was going to get the program shut down, which means there goes your $40 million, bud. Mm-hmm. You got to pay it all back now. Can't, I already spent it. Less than a week after he testified, his car was struck by a train, killing him, his wife, his daughter, and his stepdaughter. And his report vanished and has never been found.
Interesting.
Yeah. Between 1964 and 1967, 10 astronauts died, approximately 15% of the astronaut corps. The names I found in addition to the three already mentioned were Theodore Freeman, Elliot C., Charles Bassett, Clifton C. Williams, and Robert Henry Lawrence Jr.
I mean, look at the first 10 years of auto racing and tell me how many people died.
Oh, absolutely.
That's like it. There's just, to me, it's like, yeah, of course they were putting tuna cans with Mylar into space.
You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
And
I know that sounds cold, but these
can't-
people were eggs.
And they knew.
Yeah.
Like, these people did not think, all right, I'm going up there and ain't shit happening to me. They were like, I might not be fucking coming back. Yeah. And I think
that's the whole gravity. I mean, if being an astronaut were easy, everybody'd be an astronaut.
Right. Isn't there some weird thing about people who are astronauts coming from the state of Ohio? Like an inordinate amount of people who are astronauts come from the state of Ohio.
Want to know what's weird?
What's that?
The crash from Roswell
Uh-huh.
didn't go to Area 51. It went to Area 51 for holding, and then it was shipped off to Ohio.
Ohio.
So it makes sense. Last chance to call in on this. We're pretty much at the end here. We went a little longer than I expected, but
Metal!
yeah. So we're going to wrap it up, but get in where you fit in. That's it, really, as far as moon landing information. It's like I said, it's out there. You can take. I just tried to kind of present the information as unbiased as possible. You know me, just put it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'll play devil's advocate and argue for something stupid because it's fun, but
But that's why I'm here now.
right.
Yes.
Producer Jesse. So yeah, you can find me on pretty much all social medias at hellagregLIVE. Follow, like, subscribe, all that shit. Keeps this party train rolling. Jesse, where can the nice people find you?
Oh, man. Perfectlycromulentjesse.com. Everything's there.
Everything.
Cromulent is Cromulent. It's not a real word, but it is. So
It's a perfectly cromulent word.
It's a perfectly cromulent word. And let's just give a shout out to our boy, the Wolf Den, too. He's streaming. He's also on Twitch. So if you're here on Twitch watching, you can find me through here at Perfectly Cromulent Jesse, but also the Wolf Den. That's TH3 Wolf Den. Give him a follow. We're playing lots of video games. Just hear where Greg's doing that.
Yeah. Also, if you have anything you want to see on the show, fun conspiracies, I'm going to try and avoid some of the real heavy stuff. I mean, at some point I want to get into MK Ultra. We'll talk about Kennedy. But some of the real heavy stuff I might try and avoid. But if you do have anything you want to see, let me know. Again, at hellagregLIVE everywhere, hellagregLIVE.com. You know, wherever you're watching this is probably a good way to get a hold of me as well. Also, I want to thank Conspiracy Theories on Netflix for some of the information I got, because, you know, what good show is not called Conspiracy Theories?
There you go. Like, we fuck with it so hard that we don't even have to come up with some clever ass name.
Exactly. Being clever? No, that's not...
Nah, that's a conspiracy theory.
You don't have to be clever, okay? Also, Vintage Space on YouTube. Please go look her up. She's amazing. She does great work. And that's pretty much all I've got. Jesse, anything else you want to add?
No.
Well, oh, okay then. Bye.
This has been another presentation from Super